Hello, this is Thomas Ball speaking. I am one of the defendants in this case. I used to live in 45 Youngman Drive, and I'm currently making this video to shed some light and just show the overall negligence of the landlord in terms of keeping the property 45 Youngman Drive in good condition. So to begin with, this first picture is our broken window that was by the front door. Before we moved in, we were unable to open either of these three windows as seen, and the landlord made no effort to fix them. In fact, before we moved in, she put a sign on the window saying, "Please do not open." And even from the outside, you can tell that there are damages. The second one, this was in the ceiling of the basement, and there is an open hole with live wires hanging out of it. No covering and no fixture at all to help with this hazard. And we didn't mess with it because we didn't want to mess with wires, but just another showcase of something that could and should have been fixed by the landlord. Here, we have our fan over our stove in the main kitchen on the main floor. And over time, a weird and mysterious, like unidentified oil would continue to drip from the fan and land right on our stove where it would just gather and pool. And the landlord made no effort again to fix this, and it was overall just pretty gross and a health hazard too. And in that same kitchen, just to the right of the stove, is open socket with no casing. Just another hazard where things could possibly go wrong, and another area of which the landlord didn't put effort in to fix. Now, here is the door that leads down to the basement. There is no handle, as you can see, and instead it's replaced by a piece of cloth to open and close it. And even above it, you can tell that the lock there doesn't even work as the latch is hanging off. Both damages the landlord knew of because they were here before we moved in, and no effort was made to actually turn this into a working and closing door. Here is an example of the pooling oil that would drip down from the fan over it. So as you can see, that's our stove, and even though there's not that much there, me and my roommates can testify that within a few weeks, there'd be a massive pool on top of the stove, which would eventually drip down the face of the stove there and then onto the burners, which again, very gross. Here is a photo of the living room floor covered in markings. This is one area of it, but the entire living room was covered. I overheard the landlord talking to one of my roommates saying that it was from the previous tenants who had leased there for 4 years before us, is from allowing them to play floor hockey in the living room with hockey sticks. Now, also in the main floor, the bathroom, as you can see there, the sink has no faucet head. And the landlord knew of this damage, and yet nothing was done to fix it. And again, in this very same kitchen. So here is a sink, and particularly the faucet in the kitchen sink, covered in mold. And there was no cleaning of this, and it was there before we moved in. And in general, just another health hazard that is an indication of no effort into maintaining a decent property. Outside by the garage, there was this busted gutter. The rain would not properly flow down, and this is just conjecture, but it very much could have caused the overall wetness and dampness seen in the garage, as usually the whole floor of the garage would be wet, an indication of some sort of water flowing through there. Now, last but not least, I wanted to show this last photo. Um, just to show you, the viewer, what the landlord wants to charge us university students for. So the landlord wants to charge us more than $2,000 for a countertop burn mark. And as you can see, right next to the stove, of which I shown earlier, right to the left of it, is the so-called mark. Now, as you can see, it is tiny. It is slightly larger than a toonie corn. And even more, you can tell that it only is marked on this side of the countertop there, and it is not on the other segments of the countertop, meaning that not the entire countertop was damaged, just this small segment, of which was a plaster countertop, which was older also, which was older than 25 years. So her claim and demand to charge us $2,000 for this small mark, to us, seems outrageous. And just one last thing I want to show as well is a video of the light switches not working in the house. So I want to conclude with thanking whoever is watching for listening to me talk for a little bit. And I hope that this helps you understand the situation a bit more and helps you gather any insight to both of our sides, not just the tenants, but also the landlords. We, the tenants, want to settle this as much as possible and pretty much in as much as a fair and professional way as possible. And this is not a situation we wanted, but it's a situation of which we're willing to comply and to help with any needs possible that are needed in court. So, just to conclude, the overall message of this video was to contrast the actual state of the house left by the landlord with her negligence of the property and contrast that against her demands for us to pay for the countertop damage as well as her other demands of which are not plausible. So we hope that this does help like understanding, like I said. And again, I want to thank you, the viewer, and to whoever is listening, for taking your time to just review this case.